through the lesson, then I could have that treat. So maybe that's when I first got hooked. But I got serious, I think, quote unquote, serious at age 11 when I started seeking out teachers and begging my parents to play, begging them for the money to pay for the music lessons and all of that. And then from that point on, I just got more and more serious with it.
And so you were taking these lessons. Were you singing?
No, I didn't really start singing until well, now that you asked me, I started out in the tiny top choir. A sunbeam. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. That rocket song. And so I remember going to rehearsal at age 5, age 6. I was in the tiny top choir, and then in 7th grade they put me over the youth choir where I was the director.
Okay.
I recognize that music.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So it was mostly church based. This is where we could be musicians. This is where we could train. This is where they invited us in to be part of it and gave us the training and the social setting to make it seem natural. Of course you were going to sing. Of course you were going to play. Of course you were going to do all those things. And then at our church, we happened to have someone who was our age who was very talented. Her mother was the music director, so she came in ready.
Okay, right.
She came in with all the skills.
Right.
And so you could tell us nothing. We had a 7th grader on the piano, and then, I'm up there waving my arms, doing whatever I thought I was doing. So that was it.
Awesome. So how did you, that's a good point that you made, because our daughter was in the choir at church, and it was just an automatic thing. And sadly, we left that church, but it gave her some foundation to singing and even harmony. She can harmonize now. Wow. So the choir is very, very important for Black, with Black music, period.
Absolutely. And we often think that the real training goes on outside of our community. There's this narrative about formal training and informal training. There's you get assigned that. And actually when you say formal training versus informal training, you are trying to make a hierarchy, when you say that. But actually what happens is it's all formal training. How many things, what did I learn as a 7th grader in music? I learned that rehearsal starts at 6.
Boom. Not at 6:10.
Not at 6:10.
Right.
And then I learned that we rehearsed from 6 to 7, and then the adult choir rehearsed from 7 to 8. So what does it mean to leave a choir rehearsal and see the adults in your life going to get their work in? It becomes part of a larger thing. It's not just being dropped off. It's about participating in the life of your community through music.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came up. And it's the only way I know how to live. After church, we went to the roller skating rink, and then we jammed for 3 or 4 hours after that. So Sunday to me is supposed to be about all music all day. And I kind of raised my granddaughters that way too. We hit church, get some pizza, and then we put the skates on and we hit it.
Right on. That's beautiful. Because I think about Whitney Houston and some of these other folks, and they were raised in the church, and they have these beautiful voices. But under the gaze of white supremacy, we're like, oh, that's informal training, that doesn't count. No, that's everything. So thank you for that. The next question is, so how did you go from playing piano and things like that in high school into your college, into your profession? How did you find that? Tell us about that road.
Okay, I'm going to give the The parents with school-age children are not going to like this answer. But what I did after high school is I went right into music, right on the road. I did not go to college. Dr. Ramsey did not go to college right off. I had some things I was working out. I felt like I was wanting to be an artist. And my parents, I mean, there was a time that people who were poor, black people who were poor, or working poor, if you just had a desire to do something, it was supported. Nobody told me in my house that I had to go to college in order to be a success. That wasn't, you know, I had a feeling maybe it would be one day, but I wanted to play music. Okay. And I went on the road and joined some rock and roll bands, some soul bands. I did a little tour with the Shy Lights back in the day, you know, when they were in their, not in their heyday, but in their heavenly body. Where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? Okay.
Some laughs out there, y'all know that.
Y'all know that song.
Oh, well, since you didn't take the college route, but you went out and gigged and played and got real life experience, do you think that served you better when you got into the academic spaces, or what did it do? Like, how did that impact you?
Great question. Yeah, I think it made me ready for college.
Okay.
But it made me want to be there. I knew why I was there. I knew I didn't want to live out of a suitcase as I was doing. I knew that there were some skills and some credentials that I wanted, but it wasn't because of some external, you know, societal pressures, because this is what I really desired. I had, you know, good friends who didn't go my route. They moved to New York and started gigging and and being, you know, part of Art Blakey's band and all of the, you know, side man with Herbie Hancock and George Duke and all of that, you know, all the stuff, you know, that I kind of missed out on once I started college. So I graduated a little later than most people, but it was on my time.
Okay. And did you readily just major in musicology, or what was your major? Like, how did you get into musicology? Were you what do you call it, just a music student that, okay, I'm going to get this degree in music and I'm going to...
Yeah, I wanted to play. I was a piano major, performance major. I thought my music history classes were like, I felt sorry for those people. I was like, oh my God. God, don't ever let me be a musicologist.
Okay.
Don't ever let me be a music historian. This just looks sad, you know? They're not gigging, they're not doing anything. But it is something that turns out to be what I came around to do. And here's how that happened. The transition happened is when I had got my music degree and I was teaching. So I added the music ed on a little later. Okay. Because I, you know, got married in undergrad, started having kids, and then my wife at the time said, "So what does a piano major do?" I was like, "Oh, okay." I see where you're going with this. Yeah. And so I tacked on the education thing, and I became a school teacher for 3 years. You know, after college. And I was pursuing a master's in education just to change pay lanes. It didn't have anything to do with, you know, the life of the mind and all that. It had to do with, I was trying to get that paper. And then I started reading. And I started reading Your Daddy's book. And then I said, okay, this is what you can do as a music historian, that you can talk about the music I love. You can research the histories and the stories that I know I needed to know about that history. And that's when I fell in love with it, and I met the right people who directed me into the area, into the area of music history. I didn't know what that was. They told me what it was. And Sam Floyd, my mentor, said, I think you need to do this. And he was the most educated, one of the most educated black men I had ever been around. So I listened.
Wow, that's interesting. So your book is really opening up my eyes to what the power of a musicologist, particularly a Black musicologist. And so tell us about kind of the fights. He's been engaged in a good fight in terms of the need for a Black voice, the need for Black perspective, the need for like Black presence in a profession. So what was the fight like? What did you,
Well,
because it surprised me. I'm reading, I'm like, okay, so in the 90s, we were still struggling?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It really shocked me when Sam Floyd, my Black mentor, said I needed to go to the University of Michigan because that would be the right place for me, and I trusted him. Okay. And that's where I applied. I didn't apply anywhere else, and through the connections I got it. You know, it was good merit in my application. You know,
Big school.
Big school, and you know, I don't mind saying that I believe in affirmative action. You know, they might have, it might have been, it could have, it very well could have been. I'm pretty sure I was an affirmative action person. And I'll tell you what, once I got in, I told that joint up.
Okay.
What did you do? Well, the first shock was just how white it was. Because I'm reading all of the literature that I was interested in.
You mean the profession was white?
Yes, the profession was white, yes. And not only the profession, but also what the profession was mostly focused on, you know, which is the Western art music tradition. And there were some other things, but Black music was just coming into the, you know, after the fine work of Eileen Southern, you know, in the 70s, when she published the 1971 book, Reviews of Black Americans, it was still a slow climb, so that even by the late 80s, when I came into the field, you still had to, they fully expected me kind of to work on something that wasn't Black necessarily. You know what I mean? And then I was kind of, are you sure you don't want to just do opera? Are you sure you don't want to just do, you know, maybe do Giuseppe Verdi and, you know, an Italian opera? It's like, no, that's not why I came. You know, but then.
But you're so good at it.
Yeah, but you would be so good at it. I was actually told that you would be so good at it. But consequently, what happened is that I understood what the fight was. That I was going to have to stand up and to make arguments for the role and the importance of the role of Black music in American music making. And I wasn't the only one, I wasn't the first one. But I knew I had to participate in that struggle that had been going on, or else I'll be sitting up there studying Italian opera trying to fit in and never questioning the fact that I was the first Black PhD in musicology at the University of Michigan in 1994.
Because you could have just easily been in a cubicle somewhere just hiding, you know, and get paid. But you were like, no, we need the Black voice. So that was revolutionary in and of itself.
Well, here's the deal about this. This is the gimmick that I didn't fall for. When it came to working on the Black stuff, it was sort of like in the realm of activism, not the realm of your real work.
What?
You see what I'm saying?
So that was extra.
Yeah.
Your blackness was extra.
Yeah. You see what I mean? It was sort of like, and it wasn't necessarily the Black music, but my pushing for and fighting for other Black musicologists to become part of the field.
Oh, I see.
Because, see, what I saw was that they were gobbling up the Black topics without Black scholars participating in the written discourse.
Okay.
So you see what I mean? It's like lots of jazz dissertations, and then blues dissertations were coming along, and all of these gospel, you know, it was just so all of the music without the people.
That's insane. That's how they want it now. Like, we want everything good, but you guys can play the backseat.
It was sort of like that. Not sort of. It was like that.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I started writing in a way where I included the struggle in my real work. Meaning I started talking about that in the articles and essays that I was writing, and not just leaving it off the table and saying, oh, I'm just writing about Black music. No, I'm writing about Black music in the context of the white supremacy that I'm experiencing in the field of musicology,
Okay.
which is an entirely different argument.
And how was that received by your colleagues and your superiors, if you will, at universities? Were they like, okay, great article? But, well, I mean, how did they?
Well, I have to say, there was some resistance that I could feel. But because I really wasn't there to make friends like that anyway,
Okay.
you know what I mean? I love people, I love to be around colleagues and everything. But because of my background, their acceptance of my views could not affect my mental outlook, my emotional state, my focus, my drive.
Chicago.
It's Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, South
Side, Chicago.
I'm like, oh, this is what we
I
doing?
got this, I'm on lock. You can't sway me.
Right. Yeah, so it was kind of like that, and some people felt the work, I have to say, it wasn't all negative.
Right.
A lot of people embraced it because I was getting awards, and that's the other thing too, that you have to have. I knew I needed white allies, and then I had friends in the field who were white. I don't call them my white friends. I mean, they're my friends. I don't do that thing. This is my white friend. I don't even understand that concept.
Right.
This is my friend or not.
Right. That's right.
But it was making a very specific type of argument at the historical moment that I was. See, that was the multicultural moment. You remember that as the buzzword?
Yeah.
We're multicultural.
Yeah.
So that multiculturalism, that was a trip
Yeah.
to be, trying to do work in that environment, because multiculturalism could be just slapping the face of a Black child on a brochure.
Right. Exactly.
And saying that we're multicultural. Yeah. So I was saying that, well, multiculturalism is a good start, but now we need to
flesh it out.
Yeah.
It's Black folks in here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right on. So how did you maintain your, kind of cultural background without assimilating? Tell us about the balance kind of that you had to achieve in academia, because you're bringing your Chicago, your Shy Lights, your Tiny Tots choir, you're bringing all of this, the blues, the gospel, the music, but then you want to be a scholar. So tell us about the balance, and
These are some great questions. Hey, what I started doing in my writing, that if I'm going to write about gospel music, I'm going to write about the smell of the house when my little sister was getting her hair fried.
Oh, that's right.
The whole house smelled like Royal Crown. You know what I'm saying? It smelled like, do they still use that?
I love that, because what you're doing is you're giving context to the music and the feeling. You're really feeling the visceral feeling. So I get that. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, the biscuits in the morning,
Yes.
and then the crown, and then what does Vaseline smell like in your face when your mama's slapping on your face, so that you can be all, shiny for Tiny Tot Choir. To me, I don't divorce that from the music. That is the music.
No ash. No
No,
ash.
no ash in the
No
music.
ash.
No ash at all. That's right. Wow. Okay. So, how, in your book, I was reading that what was important to you in terms of the field of musicology is institutionalizing Black research. Why is that so important? Why is that so important for any of us in the field to do that?
The reason that's important is that Black music is the lingua franca of the world. You can go anywhere on this planet and you're going to hear a John Legend song in a restaurant. You're going to hear uh, funkadelics at the disco, at the party. You're going to. It's just has become such an economic and cultural force that it deserves to be understood as just as important as Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, and uh, and any other form of music. So you can't have it to where we're just included on the night course. It has to be part of what you are examined on when you become an American musicologist. That's
Has it changed? Are we there yet? Are we on the day course? Are we a part of the main curriculum?
in some places yes, in some places no, in some places it looks like we are but not, and in some places we're nowhere to be seen on the official curriculum, but every student is in their own jazz band that they formed on their own. So it's a complicated question, and you really have to look at the specific department to understand what's going on with the institutionalization of Black music. At each institution, you need to just look at it and see where is it functioning in the whole world. So let's go back to that idea of formal and informal training. You could have a singer, a girl come up in the Black gospel church, and she gets all the solos. Everybody know that Trina is the baddest one. Everybody knows that she can blow.
Right.
If some dignitary is coming, they call her.
Right.
If there's somebody's wedding, they call her. Okay, because she's got it. She's dedicated. She understands herself as a musician. She understands her place in the community. And then she'll go and audition for the choir to being a music major at an institution that really doesn't get her voice type, get her background, and then they will tell her that she really doesn't have it. She can't sing. It's not sounding right. Yeah,
That happens.
It happens. It still happens. Wow. Yes, it still happens. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
So this is why I write these books, to understand that we are from a grand tradition that matters. We've been doing this and building this for, formally for an entire century and a half, and it needs to be talked about in that way.
That's right. That's right. So that's a perfect segue, because now we can talk about the book more. The title, Who Hears Here? Okay. How did you come up with that? What are you saying about that? Tell us about that title?
Who Hears Here comes from a literary scholar who wrote an essay called Who Reads Here? And she was asking the field in the same multicultural moment that I was, where are the Black scholars writing about Black literature? And can you come in with just an abstract theory of the literature or the music without the experience of the culture and come up with a conclusion that should matter, outside of your own little thing that you think that you're doing? So she really just forced that issue, and then I'm a signifier. I'm just signifying all through the books. I'm always talking back and talking with and joining in, and so that's what I did. I just said, who hears here instead of who reads here. Okay.
And I was getting that, and as I was starting to read cosmopolitan versus provincial.
Yeah.
I really was getting that. I would like for us to listen. We want to listen to, he has a companion piece called Who Hears? Yes. And if you didn't understand what the brother just broke down as far as who reads here, who's in the room listening, listen to this piece and you're going to get it. Because that's what happened. Can we take it back to the top? And I think you have it. I think you downloaded it. Oh, there's two. Oh, okay. Okay. So while we're waiting, why do you think that it was important to publish this now? Because Who Hears here is part of an essay. That's an essay. But why do you think it's so important to publish this work, which is a compilation of essays now?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I just I just retired from the University of Pennsylvania, and after a career that's spanned, all the teaching I've done about 35 years.
Wow.
Okay, and I decided it was time to just sit down and give the younger people, space in that job and that bully pulpit. And I knew that these essays were all over the place, right? They had been published in so many different places, and I just wanted to pull them together so that people could not only see my legacy of writing for all these years, beyond the other books, but also to there's so much valuable information. They're just, I go from the 19th century all the way up to hip hop.
Yeah. And one of the articles that really caught me, and I probably should have started reading the Illmatic one about Nas. I probably should have started with that first.
Why?
Because that's easier for me. I mean, like I was in the 90s. Oh, boom, I got it.
Yeah.
The cosmopolitan versus provincial. I had to put on my thinking cap a lot for that.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you the diversity of the articles that are in there, the essays.
Yes. You have to. Those earlier essays in the book, they really are about me trying to make some elbow room in the field.
Right.
So I was definitely talking to my colleagues.
Right.
Right. And then I kind of got more free. And then, when I got tenure and I couldn't get fired, it was on.
You can talk about what you want to do.
Yeah. Just had to let it rip.
Yeah. But let me see that. Okay, Time is Illmatic, a song for my father, a letter to my son. That's the one I'm reading now. Young people, do you know Nas? I know y'all know Nas is, okay. You're gonna love that article, like it just talks about the 90s and what was going on. So it's something in this book for everybody. It's a reference guide, really. I mean, if you want to know about 19th century music, jazz music, things like that, there's something in this book for everybody. It's amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are we ready?
Okay, are we ready? We got it queued up? Okay, now.
Thanks for the brother right here.
And thank you so much, Vincent. Big shout out to Vincent, who's on a lot of Dr. Guy's work. He is a musician. Yeah, can we put it from the top?
Okay, ready?
Yes. Now you can listen, you can dance, you can move, whatever you all want to do. Oh, give us some volume. They need to hear all that.
It's only right that I show you myself. And the day's gonna tell you about the rain. The feet gonna kick up all the dirt. And the dirt gonna tell you about the pain. And the sound on the permeates the world. There's a road on so many different waves. So the land where you can barely hear the water. 12 bars in the booth with your king. To be black in the stories of my blood. And the war for my kind of have a say. On the plane where most in the wrong. Telling our stories through the white games. Who here's the art of the east. Translate the sound on the page. Break through with the truth they avoided for so long. Bring the world to the day. Move at the moments of time. Give or not sound face. Know why the groove had arrived. Know why we dance in this place. They say fairy or none. Bad truths I try to escape. I come from the spiritual sun. And all that jazz makes it way. They say we ain't hard and we ain't great. Now look at what I force academia to say. My unapologetic attitude couldn't be erased. Contributed to the way that musicology was shaped. It's felt in the streets and in the obvious. You can't deny the facts. It makes you feel the way the music touches your soul. It's no time to wait. So get up and move inside the
And tell us about this song and why you did a companion piece.
Yeah. Well, you know, music is just in me, and I'm always trying to get a dialogue going between the written word and the music. And so when I knew this book was dropping, I thought it'd be a great idea to drop a song of the same title. Now, the artist chemist who's rapping is someone who has read my work since he was a teenager. And he's in his 30s now. And he's just read the work and internalized it. And I gave him the book and said, let's co-write something together about this book. We sent it to another producer, David Ackley, in Philly. Vince, who's right here, is a co-producer and mixed it and singing background vocals on it. And Richard is singing background vocals on it. So it's, we just put it out there as a call. And he actually rapped it in first person as if he wrote this, which is really, really deep.
Right, I got it. Like when I listen to that song, I totally get the book now.
Hey!
Because we're under the white gaze, we have the right for ourselves. I totally get it. So thank you. It's beautiful and it's dancing too.
Yeah. We're still tweaking it, but it's going to drop sometime before Christmas with the film.
With the film.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's beautiful. Something to look forward to. Now, why should a lay person like myself who all in here is a professor or from academia? Anyone? Okay. But pretty much we're all lay people, music lovers. Why should we? Oh, academic, yes. Dr. Jeff, yes, Kennedy. Why should lay people buy this book? Why? If I was to like listen to a Solange song or a piece by Lucky Day, how is this going to equip me with skills, or what would it do for me? What would it do for me?
That's such a great question. You know, what I'm hoping people will get out of this book is that even if I'm not talking about the artist that you care about at the moment, that you will be able to use the theories and the methods and the stories and the histories that I'm writing here and apply them to your own musical taste, your own musical habits, maybe the musical taste and habits of people you don't agree with. You know, you can use this book as a way to understand that every time you get in a car and select what radio station you want to hear, anytime you are listening to a song as an adult and your 3-year-old granddaughter walks in the room, that it causes you to turn whatever you're listening to and enjoying down. If you are a person who has a potential romantic partner coming over to the house for the first time, the idea that you're going to select the proper music of seduction. If you're a teenager and you're really, really angry at your parents and you can't really express it because they might get in their chest, the song you select to work through that issue, all of those answers to all of those musical scenarios are in that book. It's going to show you why you're making musical choices and how you're navigating the world through Black music.
Wow, that's what's up. Navigating the world through Black music.
Yes.
That's awesome. I am navigating the world through Black music. Because really, if it weren't for Black music, I don't know, I may be in prison right now. You know, seriously, because it calms, it calms you down, it puts you in a peaceful state. You can also, gives you hope. If I turn on an Earth, Wind and Fire song, I'm immediately lifted. I mean, that's what it does.
Yes.
Right?
And there are reasons for that. And even though you believe that you're having a personal reaction or interaction with that song, what this book shows you is that every personal reaction or interaction is actually part of this larger social and cultural web that can be understood beyond your idea of personal.
Wow.
That you're actually, if you think you are moving according to your personal desires, what this book shows is that there are pathways that have already been laid out that you're walking down that you don't even understand you're walking down. That you're choosing things for reasons that are beyond your idea of what you think you are choosing them from. That you're a historical actor and you are living history and you are a product of the history and you're actually making your music, making your future through these cultural and social systems. And that's what I'm talking about.
And this is why we need musicologists. I would have never known that. One last question, because we're going to open up the floor for questions. We definitely want. Do you think that they put, is there anything in the music today that's causing people to do violence or harm Just the same way that Earth, Wind, and Fire would make you, like, they would play that, what you call it, kalimba, and you feel like, oh, I'm good. So,
Yeah.
it's the opposite happening.
Well, the thing about music is that it's always part of a larger system of culture. So, it's to say that, let's just use hip hop for an example. To say that a hip hop artist or a hip hop record is causing something to happen, something violent to happen, it's only because there have been preconditions of violence in the larger system for that act to happen. And it's really a cop-out to talk about the music, because what about the novels that are being produced? What about the films that are being produced? What about the games that people are playing? What about the environment that the person who's into some violent music? It's what conditions? Yeah, what conditions are making that violent reaction possible? It's not a baseline.
It's not some high pitched sound that we can't hear, like a little dog whistle. Okay, so that's okay. I'm just asking. I mean, I got a musicologist in front of me. I'm going to take advantage of it, right? Yeah. So we want to open up the floor for questions now. If that's okay with you.
It's like the whole society desensitize yourself to violence enough so that when you hear the music, it tips the scale. When you see that film, it tips the scale. So you have these mass shootings, you have people that might be outside right now, and they see one of these brothers and sisters as an opportunity to get in the head and maybe take their money. Because it's been on the radio, it's on Instagram. That this is something that you could do and get away with and live and be that outlaw, be that gangster, and then when you see that proliferated throughout all the media, the film, the television, the music, the food, everything, and as a musicologist, when you're a composer, and a historian. So when you sit down, you say, what, I'm gonna use this instrument, and this instrument, like a kalimba, will bring, when people hear that, they're gonna be uplifted, or they're gonna be on a more positive track. Because I got a bunch of music I want to play, but if I want to play it, so we're gonna play it. So when you go to compose, what's in your mind?
That's a great question. Okay, so as a musician, we're like masters of codes. We know the history of the codes to know that if I play this chord at this point in the drama of a film, that the listener will feel suspense. Why are they feeling suspense? It's not a personal reaction. It's a reaction that has been conditioned, repetition, and socialization from the very moments that your parents let you watch screen time, and you see 30 dramas happen, and every time that diminished chord hits, somebody got messed up. That even if the narrative, the visual narrative, isn't doing that, if I hit that chord, you're going to be feeling it in your body that something is about to happen. So we're conditioned now to da-da, 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 da-da. What's about to happen? Somebody. You the dinner. You're like, no, you the dinner. No, you the dinner. You trying to figure out.
Is that cultural or is that more deeper than cultural? Is it something like, if I wasn't conditioned, what I'm trying to say, if I wasn't conditioned in American culture and exposed to it over and over again, if I was in another culture, that same chord may start the same effect.
No. No, there's nothing inherent in the interval that should mean a fright. That should mean a big 500-pound fish about to shot. So no, it's a great question. It's not universal. There's no such thing as universalism. There's only socialism. There's only what you can socialize to respond to. Yeah, because that's why gentrifiers call the police on people who are beating drums.
Right.
I could go to that garden and feel like, yo, you know what? This is just the stress reliever I need. Like, whoo, I can feel my shoulders relaxing. That what they call a sciatica in my hip. Like, whoo, boy, let me just eat some broccoli and be good. Then like somebody else, it's like keeping my life in chaos. That's deep, right?
Dr. Ramsey,
Yes.
there were those of us who grew up in an environment, I'm Baba Uduma, and those of us who grew up in an environment of Pentecostal holiness. And at a particular time in our life, and especially before we were born, probably up to 9 or 10 years of age, in some environments, we did not watch the television to have that level of socialization. You folks who were born in 2010, on 1990, my generation is from 1940 to 1954. And some of us didn't have no television, or some of us couldn't listen to the radio. And so even though we heard those things later, there was a modulation in our spirit about those things, even though and so that's why I just thought I'd mention that, because even though somebody can be reared in another geographical culture, somebody can be reared in a geographical culture near you, and according to what they listened to when their mama was pregnant and before she was pregnant through 9 years of age, and what's the impact of upon you, and that's the kind of thing that I because right to this very day, I can hear some stuff, but it looks like my earlier training, I mean, it still impacts me, but my earlier training, or our early training, I'm thankful that you said that, because sometimes we get the thought that what I'm experiencing is only me. As though my me is not a slice. All I've done is added my particular personality within the socialization. But you picking up, and this is why those of us who went to schools with all Negro teachers in the Solid South, and those who came from the A&Is and A&Ts and A&Ms, and even when they had their way of doing things, there was a vibration in the environment that was usually greater, that environment began to devolute after World War II. For some of us, and you have, see, not me, the individual, because I don't think that way. I come out of the Mississippi clan, the Louisiana clan, and the Southeast Texas clan. And it's very important what decade or decades were that, and who were your parents, and who were your grandparents, and the environment that you were in. And you don't have to quote the people in Pennsylvania. You know who I'm talking about, huh? Who only send their children to school up to age 14. You have to learn how to quote, as I wrote earlier, it's called scratch. Well, it's scratch, look back, go forward. Okay. And if it's a scratch, I don't want no cake or nothing else. That's not scratch. Let me land this helicopter. Mom will do it.
Who's next? Sister?
Good evening, everyone. I'd first like to thank Dr. Ramsey for being here with us tonight at Sankofa. I'm Trinity Webster Bass. I'm a sophomore broadcast journalism major from Jacksonville, Florida at Howard University. You know. And my question is, as a musician and a person who's also heavily involved in academia, it feels as though that like academics or research, that realm is mutually exclusive from like the study of music and how music is really implemented into our culture. So I guess my question is, what would you say to young people who I guess want to change the narrative about connecting or like bridging the gap between academia and music?
Such a great question. And I've written extensively about that experience that you're talking about. How you can be a fully formed musical person in one environment and somehow that's not legible in other environments. And the idea that when you sit down to theorize about music, that you have to do it through a certain lens that's acceptable in that conservatory environment and not the lens of your lived experience, let's say. One of the things that I try to narrate about my life in music is that it has allowed me to not only travel in different cultural spaces, I mean, it's been my passport to move. And the thing about passports is that if you are privileged to have the passport, and I'm using the music as a metaphor for a passport now, think about your real passport. It allows you to move through different cultures. And the first thing you recognize is that everybody's not the same. Every food is not the same. You know, I went to Italy and I'm eating, I'm like, okay, at some point, I'm like, I don't want pasta every day. You know,
It's rice.
where's the calories? You know, so anyway. But music has allowed me the same kind of thing that a passport does, that I can be in totally different musical environments. And if I know the language, if I understand what I'm experiencing is singular and even silo, that's okay. In fact, there's power in being able to move through these spaces. Now, the thing that has kept me grounded, as Maria pointed out, is that there's a quote that Richard Mulhall Abrams told me. He said, "You can go anywhere but never leave home." So you can go anywhere but never leave home. And a lot of the writing that I have done from the platform of a white supremacist musicology is about the things I learned from those black migrants in third grade when they were teaching me my math class, along with "Go away from my window, go away from my door. So please go from this heart of mine and trouble me no more, and trouble me no more." Okay, man, that's the person taught me math, taught me that song. Okay? That is, why would I want to leave that behind in order to function in another environment? That's the thing that holds you down when you move through those other environments, you know? So what did I say? The two things that I've taken from your question is, one, that we can use music as the passport to move through these spaces. and a way to understand that each space has its own language, its own rhythm, its own, mores and things like that. And also, if you are grounded, no matter where you go, you're never feeling like you're shaken. And I add a third one, is that when you're in those environments, you don't go there to get your sustenance. You go there to get your training. Okay? Your sustenance is a whole other thing. Okay? I have always, when I was in environments that I found were hostile, even if it's that nice, nasty hostile, I was just there for my work. It came down to what really built me and held me and made me function. That wasn't it. That's not where I got that, and I never looked at it to give me that necessarily. It's been very good to me, and I think I've been very good for it too, But it was always about maintaining that and keeping it clear. Do you have any follow-ups to that?
I guess, actually, I do have a follow-up question. I think when we, again, kind of thinking about this academic sphere and how we can implement music into that way, I think there's also a disconnect between that aspect and then also the public. So, how do we, take musicology and the study of music? How do you take academia? And then how do we bring those concepts and ideas to the public in a way that we're all kind of engaging in music on a deeper level?
Okay, you know what? I'm going to ask my music production partner here, Vince Anthony, to answer that, because you just demonstrated something that I think he could answer, because he has college training, but he doesn't have a college degree, and he's my right hand man, And so, can you answer your question, please? I think you can.
Like 4 things.
No, is this
You know how we
Vince
phrase
about the
it?
Yes,
vocals?
that's Vince who does
Listen,
the vocals.
Vince, you the way you did black national anthem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's him?
Yeah.
Oh, another, okay.
Hi.
So I was filming and listening. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So how do we take music and academia and we connect those two things, right? How do we bring that to the public so we're all engaging with music on a deeper level?
Well, when you think about influence, it's always when you, community in the broad sense, we tend to think really broadly about that when it's really your roommate. It's your people right around you. And I find that focusing not to diminish it, but it's really I look at it you do your part in it and not put so much emphasis on trying to solve an issue, but rather just address it as you can in your own influence. Answer your question?
One of the things she was actually saying too before that is that how do you take the academic aspect of the music and have it be in the community, in the streets? How do you move that into for instance, how have you been able to connect into the academic aspect of the music?
Gotcha. So being around Dr. Ramsey, we've been working there for 5 years. I've noticed that I've been able to just incorporate different lessons, concepts, and just include it in the music that I already make. I'm a musician, I have my own practice. And for instance, I work in a studio where people come and just pay me hourly to kind of do stuff. I'm sharing everything I learned from them with them, the artists, the local artists.
Give us an example.
Okay, an example of that would be, there's a lot of tension around white bodies making black music and people doing that thing. And I have I won't say white friends, I have some friends or whatever. And we discussed that pretty extensively when we get up for stuff, and just bringing that nuance of like talking about, for instance, real direct example, learning that in Black American music, white folk and black folk have been making it together since the literal ships. Okay, like American music has always had white people and black people making it together. Just like bringing that into the conversation, different nuances in that kind of sense. I've noticed my just like immediate community again, just like sort of like seeing things a little bit differently as we have conversations like that, and just bringing it into the practice.
Yeah, that's great.
This is Ben singing a version of Lift Every Voice and Sing Every Day.
And I can follow up on your question. Another person I thought would be here, he told me how to bridge generation gap in music. Is that the old people, when you hear something new from a new on the radio or something, you find something about it that you like and share it. And then for the younger people, you find something old that you like and share it on Instagram and all the social media. But like right now, you're being exposed to this, right? So there's something like this brother and this brother, they magic. I got so many cuts I love to play that they did that it's just like boom. I didn't know this was him. I'm like, damn, I'm sitting there physically chilled. Because this is him now. And then this other thing I did, man, he killed that one too. And so, you know, and it's like, he's such an artist. He let other artists be artists. And I used to teach in your department. Tell his comments, I said, but as a younger person in journalism, and as a younger person, you find some of this old music, you just like, this brother, his music isn't old. But I'm talking about you go back and find some music, that just that little part that you like, just like DJ and Vixen, you find that sweet spot for the hook. And then you take that hook, and then you share it. And then you bring everybody else in. Because you like it, they'll be able to give you enough time to listen to it. I can't play all this. This is a long song. You gotta be into it.
Do you have a question?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
It's a statement, but like it might be a question. I don't know how to like put it all together because I discovered this myself. You know, I discovered this myself, and then I have run into somebody that's probably about 30 years or 40 years older than me. So he taught me a lot of things that I did not know, which I was shocked. The problem with this now, I had to discover it. I was being nosy on the internet, and then it clicks on to something else. Then I found out about James Brown. Then from James Brown, it led me to Curtis Mayfield. The first, like, James Brown was all about Sex Machine. When you talk about James Brown, or like, you know, it's a man's world. That's about it. So one day, I ran into a song called The Payback. When I heard that song, I was like, oh my God, this is the instruments. I was shocked because the whole time when you hear music, they talk about Elvis Presley, what's his name again? Some other white guy.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, stuff like that. But then when I heard The Payback, I said, are you kidding me? This is like, I think in the late 70s. You can't even touch that.
Right.
I said, there's no way like Elvis Presley have a song that comes in close to this.
Right.
Man, I listened to that song about 20 times in one day because it had everything in it. Then it led me to Curtis Mayfield, Isaac Hayes, and stuff like that. And then these are things that I had to discover. It wasn't out there. But, you know, on the regular people, you know about all these other people that didn't create nothing. All these sounds. And then our folks, we got to like, you know what I'm trying to say? Dig in and then find out. So I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Because I'm only 29. But look at how I did not know at all. So when you talk about kids like 20, it gets worse as time goes on. So to me, that's a massive issue.
Yeah.
That is a massive issue. To y'all know it like this. To like my generation and somebody else younger than me, they don't even know it. And then as time goes on, it's just get watered down.
If we had some books here, I would buy my own book for you and give it to you. Because you're the second person to tell me today about the lack of access to information about Black artists.
It's worse.
That's amazing.
It's worse. Even like the other artists you talk about, Funkadelic.
Yeah.
So I had it was one, I forgot the song of it, but the album, it's called like Good Old Music. That album, that whole sound. Previously, that little with the guitar, I think the electric guitar, I thought it was created by white folks. So that man told me, he said, hell no. Black people created that whole thing. I was like, wow. I was dumbfounded. And also, when you go to Google, right, you type in guitar playing or just guitar, somebody playing the guitar, and then you pick image. It's all white folks.
Okay, let me.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah. And you know what?
That is an issue because it goes on by generation and it gets worse.
No.
And then when you look at Black history, you go all the way back. That's how it was destroyed slowly because it's a generation thing. It might not seem nothing to y'all because y'all know it like this.
No, but hey.
But to somebody like us.
Let me just point out this. You know how I got it? It didn't just drop down on me.
Right.
It wasn't on TV.
Right.
I had to go to the libraries where the people who wrote the books like I'm writing it. And you know what? You don't have to Google. You can go, I already Googled it for you. Meaning this is the difference between research and Googling.
Say so.
It's very important. It's very important. No. It's very important because I even have to say this to when I was teaching to people who were college educated and even in advanced degrees. If I Google something, the algorithms are going to choose what information to share with you.
The top 10.
Yeah, and if you like read what I did, and you go to the footnotes, for every paragraph I wrote, there's 10 books I've read to make the statements I made in that paragraph. So it's sort of like what you're describing to me is what pathway to knowledge you're going to take and what are you going to call knowledge? What are we going to label as knowledge and what are we going to label otherwise? But I'm feeling you all the way. When I'm taking it so serious, is that if you want to know about like rock and roll or the guitars, I hope you can get a book like this, not just mine, but any of these people have been just like working so hard to go to archives and to find this stuff and to write the books so that it will, reach people. You don't have to go to Google.
No. I get that. I've listened to music my whole life.
Yeah.
The thing is this, it's just the average person doesn't know nothing at all about these things. They listen to these songs and all that, and then, you know what I'm trying to say? I wasn't aware of it at all. At all. Like, I've listened to music my whole life.
Right.
It's just, it took me to that song, and then I went back to this. I said, this man is a genius. I never knew that. Because all I heard was just that simple. But then you constantly hear all these artists, they didn't create nothing. I'm like, it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dr. Ramsey.
It's gotten out of control.
We're gonna go back to the young lady, Bridget, and then we can go to anybody else, and we can come back to you.
Thank you. I guess I'd like to offer a little bit of a rebuttal. I think that there's kind of a shift, especially among younger people, who maybe understand that without Black music and without Black musicians, there wouldn't be American music. And I think that there's this cultural shift where we're seeing young people who are actually interested in like how do we get to the final product that we hear on the radio or on Spotify or on a record or whatever it may be. And where do those influences come from? Well, at least for me, like when I scroll through my like TikTok feed or whatever, there's actually this one TikToker. Her name is Sugar Soul, and she kind of likes to break down. She's actually a Howard grad, by the way. She likes to break down music or modern music into the influences of the past. And I've always kind of been like an old soul music-wise, but I think with people like that and people who want to, again, like bring like this kind of research-based technique into the history of our music, I think in that way you kind of connect like the hidden gems of like Black music has been a tradition in America and across the world since forever, and there's been Black influence, I guess, and ingenuity has been everywhere, and it's not just like something of the past. I think it's everywhere.
So what are you rebutting?
I guess maybe just that like that not that maybe I guess that like there's good music everywhere.
Yeah, you can't hear after this.
I guess that there's like that there's that like talent, there's ingenuity, there's it's in everything. And I think it just takes a little bit to just like realize that, I guess, that like Black music, because it has been the foundation of all other types of music, you just have to like tap in a little bit more to see that like our music is everywhere. I don't know if that was a bit of a rebuttal.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you're totally agreeing with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just sounds, that just the importance of this music to the larger American culture cannot be questioned.
I guess as a teacher, Dr. Ramsey, what nuances do you find? I know you said you're now no longer teaching, but what nuances did you find when you were teaching younger folk? Because I think that is a part of what we're calling this disconnect. I think, and I don't want to get into this ageism, but I feel that some people like to evoke age. But
be creative, daughter.
That's not the point. My point is that when you're in your classes, what are you finding that people are like, I didn't know this. Like this, I mean, what is so awestruck about, what are like, one of the, what's so awestruck for these students that they're finding that just keeps them, bridging these two people's questions. I get it, but I feel like in my generation, I would have never thought of it that way. I feel like when this young lady mentioned TikTok, to find someone who's actually teaching and saying, well, this is what that was. I'm like, I would have never, that would have never even come across my mind as something to be even intrigued by.
Oh, well, I think one of the things that's in the mix is modes of dissemination are always important. So let's just talk about how music has circulated from the 20s to the present and how that impacts what kinds of inferences and information and references you're going to get from each technology. When it was, let's just talk recordings, cassettes, CDs, and the digital streaming. When I had to teach and bring in a physical object into the classroom, and I couldn't access the music any other way unless I had that physical object with me, I couldn't diverge. I couldn't respond to in real time to questions because I left that LP upstairs in my office. You know what I mean? I didn't have any access to it. So whatever I taught that day had to be under the conditions of the technological limitations that I was working with. Flash, go over here to when I'm teaching now or was teaching the last time I was in classrooms. No matter what question came up, no matter what musical reference came up, I was able to pull it right out. And it could be an indie rap group from Saudi Arabia who had a YouTube channel. We have instant access to that sound world, and not only that sound world, but the cultural forms that created that sound world. Okay? That's going to totally change the conversation that I have with students that day. So I always think about the conditions of the knowledge sharing. What's, so let's go to TikTok, right? This is about as un-TikTok as you can be. You know, two people up here sharing oxygen and talking, talking about some stuff. And look, hey, you got a piece of paper there, you're not reading from your phone. You got a pencil, what's that in your pencil? That's all. So that's a whole vibe. You go to TikTok and what is the TikTok time limit?
It's now up to 3 minutes.
It's now up to 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so
3 to 5.
just think about the limitation of, 30 seconds of the, whatever technology, wherever you're sharing the knowledge on, the culture on. You have to do it within that limitation. That is going to change what you say. It's going to change how fast you say it. It's going to change, what you wear, how many costume changes you can make, or whatever. It's a whole thing. So it's always together. It's always the knowledge is always tied to the mode of dissemination. And not only that, we even get more basic. There's no knowledge without the knower. There's no dream without the dreamer. So that means it's just always based in whatever you want, whatever. There's no such thing as this knowledge that's just unattached to anybody. It's always about, it's always mediated through you. Does that make sense?
I appreciate the advancement of technology, if that's what you're saying. But if we just went back to James Brown, Payback, that song is close to 7 minutes. They would have never got the full gist of it. I'm just saying, they would never get the full gist of an EWF because it's longer than 3 minutes. If we're going to today's current technology to bypass, to share that, that's not the full. You ain't getting the full instruments at the end. You're not getting the full outro.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're absolutely right, but I guess I would, there's no but about it. Let's think about, here's what I'm not into. I'm not into hierarchy. So I love that. You can't even get that song if it were 3 minutes. It has to be the whole time. I totally get it. You got to have the full journey. I understand that. But let's move it on back to Motown, where the songs were always under 30 minutes and 20 seconds. Those songs changed the world. They changed the lives of African Americans in 3 minutes at a time. So I guess I'm saying there's room for all of it. And this is one of the things I had to do as an aging professor. I had to keep up. I had to always keep up with what was going on. I had to find out what the mode of dissemination. I had to find out who was.
I think that's it. We keep up. I don't know if they keep up. Well, I'm not speaking for you, but to the them, no, seriously, but to the them who say, well, I didn't know. Like, wait, but we gotta advance with all of this stuff. How come y'all aren't advancing? Because at the same time, whatever generation, there's tons of different generations in this room. I hope that some delve back and forward as opposed to just forward.
I think
Okay,
You
so-
mind if I ask my question that was up on the floor earlier?
Brother, oh, did you want to say?
Brother Oduno, I heard Brother Vincent sing the lift of the voice and sing the hymn that they turned into an anthem. Brother Vincent, as well as Dr. Ramsey, Arnold Josiah Ford, who's the musical general for the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Community musician. There's a song that's called the Universal Ethiopian Anthem. And that song was written in 1919 because of a dastardly disembodiment of an African descendant young woman who left for dead. We kind of hear the lift of the voice and sing, but we rarely, if ever, hear the Universal Ethiopian Anthem. And that choir on at least 4 continents at a particular point in time. Maybe it was because that choir was about sovereignty and accept your own and be yourself. And as you mentioned earlier about this multicultural, how can we get, and I'm not just talking about Arnold Josiah Ford, okay? How do we begin to get into ourselves and whatever generation, whether you want to have sovereignty, your own independence, accept your own and be yourself, or do you just want to usually, because of the apparatus, as Carly Godwin Woodson suggested us, the mere imparting of information is not education. And so for some of us, it's clearly understandable why any generation thinks the way we do, because we may not be nurtured to be independent and accept your own and be yourself. And that word is what happens is, how do we have our own 9 areas of human activity being built, as a Francis Cress Welsing and Professor Neely Fuller. And see, I think that's what's happening, because even Dr. Du Bois suggested in The Soul of Black Folks that he didn't know that a chestnut or a caramel-colored young lady could be beautiful. However, he grew. But there was an environment for him to grow in. And I don't care whether it's young people, old people, chickens or eggs, for some of us in some sense. When there is less of an environment to grow, as Dr. Ramsey has expressed to us earlier, that's his work, but this is his, he didn't say nurturing. But, it's cardinal. What have certain people been brought up on is not just young people, chronologically.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's food for thought. We're going to take the question from the young lady you were saying.
No, but I do want to thank you all for the dialogue, and especially the point that you mentioned about the emphasis on not looking at hierarchy, because I think all of us have a tendency to sit in, judgment to some extent about our generation, past generation, or future generations. I think we all have something to learn from the exchange of information. Like, many of us maybe don't do TikTok, but learn to, and then learn about things just like you shared to exchange. And then many of us may not know about other information, ways to share and engage. And I think we're all on our own journey. And so I may have been here longer to know what I don't know, to know that I still don't know everything. And I think, also there are things that we all just have this exchange. And I think I just want to appreciate these types of dialogues, as well as those that happen in virtual spaces, and how you also are doing the research and reminding us that we also need to research, not just Google. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I love being in a room with this mixture of the young people and people my age. It's just beautiful. what I live for. So thank you for coming out.
Yes, we have another, I think this will probably be the last question from the purple.
I suppose it wasn't really a question. I was just kind of furthering the conversation that we were having in general because I kind of jumped in midway through. But I think there definitely needs to be a desire to consume and like seek out knowledge. And when it comes to hierarchy and different cohorts, whatever it may be, I'm 23-year-old and I don't even have TikTok. I seek out knowledge via like whether it be books or internet or those around me who are clearly wiser than me, and I am open to learning. And I think that's one thing that many people, I guess, aren't actively open to learning and like kind of not necessarily being critiqued, but open to being wrong and okay with being wrong and like moving forward. Like, okay, there's different ways to go about experiencing or learning, I suppose. But I was just kind of jumped in, but just recognizing what everyone was talking about, I think that there definitely needs to be the desire to consume information in order to actually develop and also recognize the cultural importances of music.
Sir, Brother Hill, right?
Yeah. What's going on, Dr.
I just love it. And going back to your comment about, I think you said an elder kind of turned you on to a James Brown song.
No. I discovered the song. Yeah, I discovered the song. It was actually an artist. I think it was Kendrick Lamar. So the song was King Kunta. So somebody else had said the song reminds him of James Brown. So I was listening to the song. I was like, well, I'm already on YouTube. So I typed in the song that reminds them of James Brown, The Payback. I was like, oh, James Brown, The Payback. Since I was already on the internet, I typed it in. And then I was like, wow. Because just the sound of it, everything about it was untouchable. Because if you know music, there's something about instruments. Like when it comes to instruments, you can't touch that. Compared to like, you got all these producers nowadays, they call themselves genius, all types of things. All they do is touch buttons. But as instrument-wise, that's a different level when it comes to like, you know what I'm trying to say, music-wise. So I was like, wow. And then it leads, end up discovering other artists during this time. And then how the sound of music got to over here. And then one time I was listening to like Funkadelic. My friend came, he's like, what the hell you listen to white people music for? I said, this ain't white people music. You see what I'm trying to say? Yeah. It's like, he clearly said, what the hell you listen to white people music? I said, this ain't white people music. This is your folks' music. He didn't even know.
Yeah. Well, you know what you are showing us, very vividly is that the veritable explosion of culture that has happened in the last 20 years. Nobody can question why somebody doesn't know something. There's just so much. And I hope that events like this and settings like this, where we can all sit down and talk to each other and share ideas and question and challenge one another and be respectful to our elders, be respectful to the youngest person in the room, and know that they have value and that we all have value to bring to the table. I think that that's what music is all about. And I think that that's what this book, Who Hears Here, is all about. Who Hears Here on Black music, past and present. I want to thank Maria Jones. Oh my God. Do you have anything you want to say to your DC people?
Just thank you, Sankofa. Thank you, Vincent, for making the trip. Thank you to my other brother-in-law, Darren, back there to Orange. Thank you to my husband, Henry, Joseph. Thank you for coming and sharing this knowledge and being a catalyst for this discussion. Shout out to Kim, Bay, and Zaya from WPFW Culture Shack. Janae, big ups, big ups. Let's continue on. Let's continue to talk. Let's continue to support St. Clovis so that we can have this gathering place. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be talking. Like we wouldn't. And this is so important. Stay open. Gather the knowledge. Find out. Write a book. You know. And we're gonna take a group shot. Can we do that?
Yes, yes.
Let's get everybody come up here. We're gonna put some James Brown on.
I
And
was
some
about to say,
Parliament
can
folks
we
go.
end
And
on
who's here? Okay, yes. So let's go. Let's go. Right here.
Revenge!